Hello and welcome to Claret and Blue. My name is Dan Rowlandson. I'm joined here this afternoon, or this evening, whenever you listen to this, by John Townley for another one of our short, snappier videos where we just have a chat about something. A couple of weeks ago, it was why we were wrong, or why I was wrong about Leon Bailey. Yesterday, we spoke with Dan Bardell about the January transfer window. And today, John, I just want to chat with you a little bit about Ollie Watkins, somebody who we speak about most weeks on the main show anyway, but somebody who probably deserves a little bit more of the limelight. Nothing planned besides one stat that I will share with you later in the show. I just wanted to chat about him because I love him. I know there's some people out there that still think Villa could improve on him somehow. I don't know who that striker is and how much we would have to pay to get him, but I believe Ollie Watkins is the perfect striker for Unai Emery and for Aston Villa.
Yeah, I agree, and it's only what I think we've been saying for a while, not to be that guy. You could probably brand it as why we were right about Ollie Watkins. If we were wrong about Bailey, we're right about Watkins. There was, well, there probably still is, I don't know, but there was definitely comments, I don't know, a few months ago that would, suggest that because Watkins misses a few chances here and there that he has to be upgraded on, or Villa, should look to sell him off and bring in someone else. And I'm not sure where all of that really came from. I think it's just because he has a lot of chances and he will score, most of them and miss a few, and the ones that he misses look bad. But yeah, that's the kind of the life of a striker, I suppose. And I think because Watkins has been with us throughout this journey, obviously he wasn't there when we got promoted or anything, but he's been with us since we've been growing as a football club, really. He's one of the players who, like Emi Martinez, obviously John McGinn was a bit before them as well, but though that group of players, Matty Cash, etc., even Douglas Luiz, I suppose, to a point as well, who was signed the year before Watkins, they've all matured and progressed together, and they've had ups and downs. Obviously the Dean Smith era was brilliant, and the Steven Gerrard era not so much. And I think quite a few of those players, like Tyrone Mings, for example, probably got a lot of slack from those times, should we say. And I think Watkins falls into that category as well, because he was a lone striker with very little service, playing under a manager who really didn't know how to get the best out of him. And it wouldn't have surprised me if we would, bring in a different striker. And Watkins was kind of eased out because a manager didn't see how to get the best out of him. Obviously, we brought in Danny Ings when we sold Jack Grealish, but throughout this time, Ollie Watkins has been the main man. And yeah, it's just nice to see that now under a top manager is proving that, this is why, I've stuck around, if that makes sense. And I wasn't replaced, and I am still the main man for Villa, and why he can now push us on to even greater things, because there's still so much for him to improve on, I think, as well. He's a top player already, but the people who he's working with, like Rodri, the individual coach that Emery has in his team, he's taken him to new levels, and he's only worked with him for a year. So this is like almost the start of Ollie Watkins' period in the kind of elite conversation, I think.
Yeah, when we signed him from the Championship, he was a top Championship striker. He'd done very well then. Since joining us, he scored 14 in his first season, 11 in the following, 15 last season, and it's 7 in the Premier League. Those numbers are so far in 13. He's obviously getting assists as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He's 27 at the moment. He's born the same year I am, but his birthday is the 30th of December, birthday on the day we play Burnley in the Premier League. He will turn 28 then. So, for a striker, that's your prime, isn't it? We're about to see the best of Ollie Watkins, we hope. He's played 13 in the league, scored 7. You said in the summer you thought he would get 20 in the league.
I think he'll get 20 goals next season. I really do, if he stays fit, because the amount of chances he's going to have as well. But he looks scary. Like he's relentless in his running as well. He's powerful, he's strong, he's quick, he's athletic. And in his finishing chances as well, 3 goals in 5 in pre-season, which means very little really, but basing it off what we saw last season in the Premier League, I think he'll get 20.
Do you stand by that, or do you want to go more?
That's what I was about to say. No, go more. Yeah, I think 20 is the target. That's what he said it himself, hasn't he? That is always the kind of the benchmark for a top Premier League striker. It's how many times have they hit 20 goals in a season? That's kind of the question that comes up. Unless it's Haaland, and it's how many times has he scored 40? So that's just a new level. But yeah, for a top striker, 20 goals is the question for those players, and Villa haven't had that player, have they, in the Premier League? Watkins, I think, will be that man this season. I think he can get more than 20 goals. 20 goals is his target, and it wouldn't surprise me on the final day to clinch Champions League football. He scores a hat-trick and gets up to 23 away against Crystal Palace. That was my dream last night anyway. But nice. Fantastic striker, a player that's maturing, I think, all the time, as well as players like Douglas Luiz. They all seem to be kind of feeding off Unai Emery's energy and his experiences, and that's what he's wanted to bring to his players. And yeah, players like Watkins, again, it's like a shout out to our recruitment over the last few years. It's been pretty brilliant, really, when you think about it. There's a few players that have gone missing, like a Danny Ings we probably shouldn't have signed, even though I think he did well for us in some ways, but for the money, the outlay that we paid, wasn't it. Bailey has taken a little bit of time to adapt, but all of a sudden now we have a player who we can rely on, so that's fantastic. All these players were the right players, and I think we all knew that, to some extent, but it was just, how do they all come together, how do they all progress? And under Emery, I don't think, is there a player, maybe Douglas Luiz to be fair, but is there a player that's been so rapidly developed, I suppose you could say, under Emery? I think that's a good question. Is there a player in the squad apart from Ollie Watkins? As I said, Luiz, I think probably up there as well, to be fair. A comparison of Ollie Watkins right now to Ollie Watkins when, I don't know.
Even Ollie Watkins, literally just as Emery arrived. When we sold Danny Ings, he was top goal scorer at the time, and Ollie Watkins had, 3 goals up until January, which is crap. Really, let's face it. We said that at the time, and then he went on to score 15 last season in the end, I think I said. 3 goals in the first half and 12 in the second half. He was unbelievable under Emery. And there's the stat that I mentioned earlier, as much as there's no kind of like prep to these shows, as much as we would have for like the long form podcast that we do. Obviously, I can Google things while we're chatting. It's 30 goal contributions, so that's 20 goals and 10 assists in 37 games under Unai Emery. Never mind the 20 goals, which is great. We've spoken before about like the need for a 20-goal striker and how that's not necessarily something you do need if your main man scores 15 and the supporting cast score 10, 12, that kind of thing. You'll still have a great season. So 20 goals is one thing. To get 10 assists as a striker is pretty decent, isn't it? Like that's some going. 30 goal contributions in 37 is unbelievable, and I don't know who's out there that can be improved upon Ollie Watkins, that you're going to get better numbers than that.
No, it's certainly not a team that isn't playing Champions League football. I mean, on that as well, I'd love to see the kind of chart. I might even do it later myself of just where does that rank, I suppose, between what all the Premier League players. And I bet there won't be many strikers apart from Haaland, of course, who just scores goals for fun. But in the kind of the non-Erling Haaland tables as such, Watkins has to be up there. And I don't think there'll be many strikers there, because obviously, scoring 20 goals is some achievement anyway, especially in the modern game when strikers seem to have, kind of been lost. They don't really exist, a lot of them. Whereas, a creative midfielder or a winger, those top players like a Salah or even like a Fernandes who posts good numbers, those numbers are for those players, really. So yeah, Watkins is obviously doing it in a very different way, but he's getting those numbers, and those numbers gets points. So yeah, he's been absolutely fundamental to Villa's turnaround under Emery. And I remember when we appointed Emery, and one of the first things I said on the podcast that we spoke about was, right, we ain't spending £400 million to get into Europe. That is never going to be the plan or a sustainable future for the club. It has to be these are your players, improve them. That's not something that Steven Gerrard managed, or that I actually thought he wanted to do anyway. I think he did want to spend his way into Europe, that sort of thing. Whereas Emery looked at what he had and said, all right, Ollie Watkins, you stand between the posts, you watch these videos about Cavani, Baka, Aubameyang, other players, and you work with my individual coach that I'm bringing that I trust and that has worked with these players before. And it's just a recipe for success. And again, going back to the recruitment, Villa couldn't have just bought any players and made it work. These players had to buy into what Emery wanted. Considering the kind of wrongful stick, I suppose, that Emery got for whatever reason when he was during his time in England, he's now taken over a group of players who are willing to listen and willing to learn. Yeah. Whereas other clubs like Arsenal and PSG, those players, they don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be told what to do. Neymar is going to track back, whereas Watkins will, because he knows that makes him a better player. I
think there's something in that as well. And this is a totally different podcast probably, but if you've got players that Villa had and have that are willing to learn and take on information, that think, I can be better and this guy can make me better because he's proven, they're sponges to the information. And these 2-3 hour meetings they have probably are boring at times. When we spoke to John McKenzie, and he was talking about the training that they do, and they'll stand in a certain position and Emery will say, if the opposition press there, where do you go? And they move and they reset and they go again. that is boring. Of course it is. But if you're the individual that has the mindset that this guy will make it better, and so far it's worked, so you kind of buy into that because you go, well, yeah, it might be boring, but it's working. I don't think that does work at an Arsenal, at PSG, at a Manchester City, at a Real Madrid, whoever, because these players that are superstars think, I don't care about this. Who are you to tell me what to do? Like, I'm a superstar. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a certain level of player that buys into Unai Emery's style, which is why he's the perfect fit for us as well. Just quickly on the goal contributions so far, we said it was 30 in 37 for under Emery. It's 65 goal contributions in 122 Premier League games for Watkins overall, which is very quick maths. I think a goal contribution every 1.87 games. So he's contributing pretty much better than 1 in 2.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, like we said, 30 of those 65 have come in the last calendar year. So the other 35 came in a much bigger period of time than last year. So if that continues, we are looking at a player that will score 20 goals over the course of a Premier League season, because that 37 is basically a Premier League season in full. So it'll be interesting to reassess Ollie Watkins' numbers at the end of the season. Is it 7 goals and 5 assists so far, I think? Yeah, it is. I was right. I just quickly Googled it and found it through Who Scored. It's 7 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League so far. So it's 12 contributions in 13 games.
And this feels very sustainable as well. I don't think Watkins isn't picking the ball up and leathering it from 20 yards.
He didn't score for the first 5 games, did he?
Exactly. Yeah, precisely. And there are chances like, against Tottenham, he had one that's marginally offside. He missed a chance from a corner. He obviously scored one, and then Ben Davies blocked it off the line. So he could have had 4 on another day. I know football doesn't work like that, but he's had 4 great chances. He scored one. One of them was offside, as I've just explained. But it's sustainable. He's getting those chances. So I don't doubt that come the end of the season, he can probably have something crazy like 30 goal contributions, because you're looking at about 20 goals and it's 5 assists off 10. So that it's remarkable. And again, this is a player who, I don't know how to put it, but he doesn't come as the Harry Kane creative drops deep, but still gets on the end of things and that sort of thing. He's not the best England striker there is, but he's must be the second, right? Callum Wilson, don't get me wrong, is a great finisher and I think he's a very good player. Calvert-Lewin as well. But these guys, Ivan Toney as well, but I think Ollie Watkins has propelled himself above them now.
Just one final thing that I want to bring up, and this is what sparked the idea for let's just have a chat about Ollie Watkins. James from the AVSE Faithful podcast put a tweet up earlier in the week. Ollie Watkins versus the Premier League Big Six, the traditional teams that you would expect. 7 games against Arsenal, 4 goals. 7 games against Spurs, 3 goals and an assist. 6 games against Man City, 2 goals, 2 assists. Man United less good, 8 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist. Liverpool, 7 games played, 5 goals, 1 assist. Of course, he scored the hat-trick against them. And Chelsea, 7 games played, 2 goals. So Chelsea, Man United, not particularly great, but the others are pretty decent records.
Yeah, it's a good trend.
We play City and Arsenal in the next 2, and he fares well against those 2. So big game player as well. Ollie Watkins is a tag you can throw at him. It's not that he's kind of stat padding here and scoring goals against Burnley and Sheffield United. He's getting goal contributions against the big boys as well.
Yeah, precisely. And that's why he's a complete striker. He doesn't shirk challenges. He is not literally like as in duels, but challenges in terms of playing against a William Saliba. He'll take it on his left foot and slam it past the Arsenal goalkeeper like he did last season. No, I don't think anything phases him. I feel like he's come from that background where he was at Exeter. He kind of had everything to lose. Sorry, he had nothing to lose in terms of progressing his career. It was all there for him if he wanted it. And he's, worked with the Dean Smith, who's taken him to a different level and he's continued to rise. I just think almost all of our squad just needed that elite manager who could kind of open their eyes up to a completely different way of training, playing for a game, preparing for a game, different tactics, etc. And Watkins, as I've said, is fed off. They've fed off it, and he's that good. You are struggling to think of what can't he do. The only thing that I'd say is that he can be somewhat wasteful sometimes, which is the main thing that is thrown at him. But I can't use that against him because he's just got a lot of chances and he scores a lot of goals. So it doesn't matter if he was missing them all and he wasn't getting his numbers. Well, yeah, that was obviously an issue. But he's still scoring goals. So hell, Ollie Watkins can miss 2 1-on-1s a game. But if he scores, well, then he's going to get, he's not going to get 38 goals this season. But that would be it. And honestly, in every game, you back him to score. And that is a top striker. And as I said, if he takes all of his chances, he scores as many goals as Erling Haaland. He doesn't play for Aston Villa. We sell him for 150 million. Do you know what I mean? It's that level. And I said it in the summer, not on a podcast because I'd be kind of criticised for trying to sell Villa players, but I said straight away, Man United have to sign Ollie Watkins. I obviously didn't want that to happen, but his contract, there's obviously a situation there. Like long-term viewers of the podcast will know how much I've rated him, Watkins, in terms of what he gives off the ball as well. But he's a complete striker. I don't know why teams didn't look at him, but go for him. Why signing Højlund for 70 when Ollie Watkins is the guy right now? It's remarkable.
We're absolutely grateful that didn't happen, of course.
Exactly. We are, yes. He could lead the Man United line. Other teams as well, because we're better than Man United at the moment, aren't we? So.
And just very quickly, I mentioned that those stats there is like versus the big six, the traditional guys like Chelsea in there, for Christ's sake. Off the top of my head, the new big six, if you include Brighton and Newcastle, he scored twice against Newcastle last year in the home win when we beat their winning run of 5 or 6 games. And he scored a hat-trick against Brighton this season. So if you include the new big six, he's also very good against them as well. He's very good against everybody. That's the takeaway from this video.
I think as well on that, just to kind of, why is that potentially? I think when you leave him with space as well, I think that's a key thing.
Yeah.
He's very quick. He can run in behind, and exactly what he wants to do. But it's very hard to stop. He's going to cut inside and try and aim for that far corner. It's like obviously it's not like Ian Robben, but the guy had a left leg and he didn't have a right, and you know exactly what he was going to do every time, but you couldn't stop it. And I think that's not exactly Watkins' game. Of course it isn't, but it's that same element of what you're going to get from Watkins, but it's very hard to stop when he's running into space and when he's stretching a back line. If he doesn't shoot, he passes it, and that's how he's getting his assists. So it's he's getting more goals against other teams, as you said, Dan, because he's added elements to his game where if teams are dropping back and there is less space, he can be a poacher. He can get on the end of things, like his movement for that chance against Tottenham when Davis blocks it. It was great movement for him. He realised, McGinn's going to stand at the back post. He's not going to go for the front post because he's going to have to lift it. He realises it and could have made it 3-1. So, fantastic player, a player that's improved immeasurably over the last 12 months, and certainly someone that I'm delighted to have leading Villa's line, hopefully for many years to come.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And let us know in the comments what you think of Watkins. If there's still any of you out there that think we could improve on Watkins and we should sell him and cash in, shout up, show yourself. And if you've got a genuine reason, I'd love to hear it. I don't see anyone better than Ollie Watkins at the moment that Villa could realistically get. Of course, there are better strikers than Ollie Watkins, but they're not coming to Aston Villa until Aston Villa get themselves into the Champions League. And the way we're going, Ollie Watkins will be the guy to get us there, or one of the guys to get us there. So, absolutely long may it continue. John, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great to chat about something else positive at Aston Villa. You can also check out the video I did with Dan Bardell yesterday where we spoke about the January transfer window. We did the Monday show on Monday where we waxed lyrical about all things Aston Villa and answered your questions. And tomorrow is the Europa Conference League big game at Villa Park against Legia Warsaw. We'll do a post-match show for that either on Thursday evening or Friday morning. So stay subscribed to Claret and Blue to see that before anybody else. John, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow.